Hey everybody, welcome to my channel. Well, as you recall, in a previous video I did last week, I talked about camera size and cold weather, and that I was going to do some street photography in Chicago, and decided to take my S5 Mark II and Sigma 20 to 200 millimeter lens, that brand new Sigma lens, and mainly because it had gotten cold, and larger cameras are easier to use with gloves, and also larger cameras tend not to have their batteries die because they've gotten cold, because they don't get cold as quickly as smaller cameras. Somebody in the comments asked for pictures, and I was planning on doing that as a separate video because I just decided not to make one big long video about this. But they also asked about my stock photography. And so I'm going to answer that question, then we're going to go on and we're going to take a look at some images in a slideshow from that street photography session down in Chicago. Stock photography is kind of a roller coaster. So I had a really good November. I almost hit $500 gross, which roughly translates to a net of around $200 for me. So that's just extra found money. So I keep doing it. The other thing you got to consider is that I have nearly 12,000 images on Alamy. And so I have images that I shot years ago that still sell as stock. I don't do specific videos on stock anymore, and I don't put that into the thumbnail or the title because people don't watch those. So if you're interested in stock, you're a minority. So, oh well. But slideshow of images taken with the S5 Mark II and the Sigma 20 to 200 millimeter lens. I'm going to roll this show. Then I will be back with commentary because there was a non-photographic reason why I went to the Magnificent Mile, which I'll touch on after the slideshow. Here you go. Okay, Chicago's Magnificent Mile, shot with the Lumix S5 Mark II and the Sigma 20 to 200 millimeter super zoom lens. As I said in the previous video, you know, people are so busy shopping and really just carrying on with their lives that they didn't pay a lot of attention to me. So, you know, you might have noticed one image where somebody's looking right at me and smiling. So that was about it. I mean, I think other people might have noticed, but they weren't terribly concerned about that. And as I mentioned in that previous video, a police officer did come up to me and say, "Hey, sir, how you doing?" And I kind of got the feeling he was feeling me out. But, you know, I was up front with him. No big deal. And it's good to see that they have police down there, because that's the one thing that we have had some issues with. And that's what I'm going to get into as far as the other reason that I went down to the Magnificent Mile. And so I'm going to forewarn you right now. This is going to get somewhat political. If that is an issue for you, feel free to leave right now. But most people who watch this channel, and at least our subscribers, know how I roll. So a few weeks ago, our stable genius in the White House put out a social media post essentially calling the Magnificent Mile the Miracle Mile. By the way, you would think that a guy who has a tower with his name on it 1 block off of the Magnificent Mile would know that it's the Magnificent Mile and not the Miracle Mile. And then he went on to talk about, oh, the vacancy rate is 28% and there's crime and murder, and nobody's been murdered on the Magnificent Mile. Sorry. There's been some instances of crime, smash and grabs, when people have run into certain stores like jewelry stores and smash stuff and grab stuff. But Chicago police are clamping down on that, because if you notice in that slideshow, there are a lot of police down there. And they're really acting as goodwill ambassadors as well. I mean, they're being very friendly to people because they realize this is a big attraction. So, you know, and I don't have a problem with that. You know, kind of have to keep the bad actors at bay. But to what the occupant of the White House said, it's not 28%. And here's the thing. In that slideshow, you'll probably have noticed that there is a picture of his tower. Here it is again. So you see those levels down by the river, those right down there with the walkway going past? That's all retail space. You know what the vacancy rate for that has been since they built the building? 100%. He's never been able to get people to use those spaces, primarily because nobody's going to go over there. You know, it's not a place where you have a lot of traffic. You've got people who do use that walkway mainly during, you know, the week, maybe to get over to the train stations and so on, but you're not going to get a lot of foot traffic. So businesses don't want to be in a place like that. And now businesses don't want to be in a tower with that name on it, because they realize that, especially in a city like Chicago that he dumps on continually, calls it a war zone. It's not. As I've said in a previous video a while back, and I'll put that link to that in the end titles. But, you know, people don't want to be there. So maybe he's just jealous, because the vacancy rate on the Magnificent Mile is, I think, 22% or so, roughly. It is down quite a bit from the pandemic. Of course, the pandemic caused problems and some businesses had to close. You know, maybe if he'd managed that pandemic better, that wouldn't have happened, but he didn't. So, you know, we have a magnificent mile here in Chicago, but Chicago is a magnificent city. It is a world-class city. People who come here are always amazed at what this city is like. I mean, I'll watch these reaction videos from people from the UK, from France, and other countries who come to Chicago and are amazed by this city. And if you want to do street photography, this city has it all. I've been wanting to, and I probably will once we're getting some pretty cold weather, and we had a lot of snow last night. But I've been wanting to go into some of the neighborhoods and do street photography, because you know, we're a city of neighborhoods. We've got, you know, of course, obvious ones like Chinatown, but we also have Little Saigon on the north side. So we have an area of, it's a heavily Vietnamese. We have got Devon Avenue, which is an interesting mix because it's Indo Pakistani, but also Jewish, because originally it was a Jewish neighborhood. So you got a whole mix there. Anyway, I'm going to end the rant right here, but, I'm really sick and tired of people dissing this city, especially when people who have never been here. He's been here, but there are people who post stuff online who talk about, Chicago's a war zone and it's crap. They've never been here. They need to shut up and not spout off and just parrot what they get out of certain media outlets, because this is a great city. So you all ought to visit sometime and check it all out, because it's just, you've got world-class architecture. You've got some of the best restaurants in the country. I mean, whatever you're looking for food-wise, we have it here. Food, cuisine from all over the world, right here in what some people call the Paris of the Midwest. Maybe it's the Paris of the United States. So, all right, that's enough on that. Thanks for watching. Really appreciate it. If this was interesting or useful to you, hey, don't forget to hit that thumbs up button. I really appreciate that. New subscribers are always welcome. And if you have any questions, comments, leave them down below. I'll get to those as soon as I can, but be forewarned, I don't debate people who, parrot stuff, who don't know what they're talking about, because there's no point in debating people like that. No matter how much information and data you throw at them, it just bounces off their head, just as if you threw a quarter at it. Have a great day. See you in the next video.